Well, the creative plans for WrestleMania appear to be once again completely uprooted due to our good friend Dwayne. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Wingy. Happy Saturday. Got a lot to talk about tonight, especially as it relates to last night's SmackDown and the return of The Rock, where he informed Cody Rhodes, or he proposed to Cody Rhodes, a scenario that would allow him to become the owner of Cody's soul. What does that mean? I don't know. I think it means that The Rock wants Cody to be his puppet. That's the way it appears to me. And WWE very might well be running another corporate champion storyline heading into WrestleMania. Now, there's a lot of ups and downs to this, a lot of speculation as to why Rock came back when he did. How much in advance was this planned? Did he literally just decide this 2 days ago and now WWE has rewritten everything or reworked everything for WrestleMania? They definitely reworked a little bit of SmackDown last night to make room for The Rock, changing up some matches and whatnot. But in terms of their creative plans for WrestleMania, is The Rock's return now going to screw any of that up? Whatever the plans may have been, Cody and Punk, Cody and Cena, whatever they were going to do, is that now going to change now that The Rock is back? That's what we're going to try to piece together today, even though we're probably not going to have really any concrete answers until we get on the other side of next Saturday, 1 week from today. We will be here next week, by the way, watching Elimination Chamber together. I thought originally I might miss it, but looks like we're going to be here for that next Saturday. So maybe Saturday we will know a little bit more about what exactly they're going to do, and if it's not going to be Cody selling out to The Rock and becoming Rock's corporate puppet, does that mean somebody else will? Is The Rock coming back not to work a match, but to be in the corner of somebody to take down Cody? Is it going to be that type of thing? Is he going to have a WrestleMania 27 type involvement like he did with John Cena and The Miz back in the day? Or is he going to be, the manager of this person? I don't know. There's so much to think about. I was under the belief that if The Rock and Cody Rhodes wrestle, that Cody will beat him. Why? Because The Rock pinned him on night one last year at WrestleMania. So the next time these guys get in the ring, Rock should be putting over Cody. Maybe Rock understands that too, and that's why we're not getting a match. Maybe that's why Rock's coming back in to be a part of the whole thing, but he doesn't want to get in the ring with Cody because he doesn't want to lose to Cody. So maybe that's why it doesn't appear that this is leading to a match. Now, it still could. Cody could decline The Rock, then The Rock could pull his TKO board member card and say, no, I'm getting the title shot now, and all you 6 jabronis in the chamber, I guess the hell with y'all. I don't know what it even means for the chamber if The Rock were to do something like that. So barring any sort of scenario like that, it doesn't look like Rock and Cody are going to be in the ring. And another thing that's interesting about this whole situation is that, are we going to have The Rock and Roman Reigns in completely separate Mania programs? That's kind of interesting if that's the case. Makes me think that Roman got the fuck out of Dodge when he knew Dwayne might be sniffing around the main event again this year. Nope, I'm going to sit this one out. Just let me work with Seth or Punk or both. And maybe that's what they're doing. We don't know. But that's going to kind of be the focal point of today's podcast, along with a lot of other stuff. We're going to talk about the Rock and Cody segment last night and everything that might mean. We'll run through the rest of what was actually kind of a pretty shitty SmackDown last night. Nothing really going on there. Dynamite was pretty solid this week. Raw wasn't half bad either. And we have a lot of wrestling news to get into, including an update on last year's meeting between Tony Khan and Shane McMahon. Got an update on how that all went. Also, there is some frustrations in the WWE locker room as it relates to the women, and we have a really interesting, crazy story about one of Vince McMahon's last terrible ideas in 2022 before he hit the bricks there, relating to the Royal Rumble and Ronda Rousey. We'll also talk about Carmella being gone from WWE, at least right now, in an official capacity, no longer under contract. Ricky Starks is going to be Ricky Saints. Give you my thoughts on that. We got some news on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We'll talk about that real tiny little ring that a lot of fans think there was at Grand Slam, but it really wasn't. We'll talk about the ring sizes at Grand Slam, which we haven't gotten into yet. And this past week on Dynamite, good promo between MJF and Hangman Page. Revolution is looking pretty good. As a matter of fact, Revolution and The Chamber, even though The Chamber is a smaller card, both of those pay-per-views here coming up are looking really nice. Back-to-back, Saturdays? We've got Chamber 1 week from today, Revolution 2 weeks from today. So we will be here to watch them both. I was maybe going to go to Revolution, but I got a lot of other things going on in my life right now, so that might be hard, as well as hitting up Dynamite this week in Oceanside. Not sure if I'm going to make that either after planning on it, just because of things going on. But we'll be talking about a lot of AEW stuff and how these two pay-per-views, Chamber and Revolution, are shaping up. And I think both are going to be pretty awesome shows. And we're going to be getting these in back-to-back Saturdays, right? Because Revolution and EC are both Saturday shows, correct? Yeah, pretty sure that's correct. Unless Chamber is Sunday. No, Chamber's Saturday. Yeah, Chamber's Saturday. I should know this before we come live and do a podcast. In addition to that, we'll just talk about a few other news and notes and anything you guys might bring up there in the chat today. I want to thank everybody for being here. Happy Saturday. Do me a big favor. Smash that thumbs up button below. Super chats are open. I will answer all of them, as well as memberships are open as well. And make sure you are a subscriber if you are not one, because at the end of the day, that's really all I want, subscribers. Zane G, good to see you, man. Stay positive, stay strong. I am, man. Everything's going great. Muhammad, good to see you. Colin Wright, we got Mike Rouse in the house. Jay Lambo and Tatanani. Josh Sanders, good to see you. David Brown, good to see you. Saram Creations, I don't know how to even pronounce that. Thank you. Good to see you. And you just got out of work. Nice. I'm going to work when this is all over, so I'm like the reverse of you. We've got TA85. I got Elizabeth Hurley from the movie Bedazzled vibes with The Rock last night. I Want Your Soul. That was weird. It was weird. And by the way, shout out to Elizabeth Hurley, who is still to this day, got to be one of the hottest women alive, and she's like 60. Go look, check out Elizabeth Hurley's IG page and tell me you won't be drooling. Her and Selma Hayek both. Girls have got it going on in their 60s. See, I'm even choking over it. That's how hot they are. Rodrigo, good to see you as well, man. Daniel Clark. We got Colin Wright chiming in with 5. I wish to have good mic work soul. Also, Alexa to win at EC and the Wyatt Six to help her beat Charlotte at Mania. Alexa, okay, I see. Help her beat Charlotte at Mania. So Alexa's going to win the Chamber. Well, if Alexa wins the Chamber, that the Chamber person faces Ripley. Charlotte's facing Tiffany, so Charlotte's out of that whole thing. So anybody who wins the Chamber will be Ripley's opponent, not Charlotte. And plus, Charlotte's not even the champion. What are you even talking about, Colin? Zach Palgett, what's up, dude? Me and my buddies who went to Mania 40 are going to the Chamber. Should be a good card. Nice, you're going to be at the Chamber. Anybody who's going to Skydome, send me some pics. I'm curious to see how that setup looks. It doesn't look like it's going to be a huge house. I think they've only sold under 30,000 tickets for this, which that building holds a hell of a lot more than that. So we'll see how the layout is, but it should be a cool-looking show regardless. Denny Downbad is here as well. So is Jay Boba. Thank you very much for that $10, my friend. Hey, Greg, prediction. Cody refuses The Rock's offer. I think that's a fair prediction. Punk wins the Chamber. Punk turns heel on Cody and sides with The Rock. Like WrestleMania 17, sets up heel Punk versus Cena in the summer for the championship. I do like that. I'm not sure, Punk I can see more of a possibility than Cody. I absolutely do not think Cody would turn heel yet. He will. He's got a big heel run in his future. It's not time. Too over, too popular. He's in the John Cena role. I think all this needs to happen next year. Punk is a little bit more of a possibility. Give me heel Punk in a suit standing there next to The Rock. That would be weird as hell, and I'm not really sure if I want that or not. And we'll also talk about John Cena potentially being the corporate champion. It does sound like somebody could be the corporate champion based on the field that I see in the Chamber right now. The only one that makes sense would be Drew, to be honest, but shit, we're going to be breaking it all down here too. Jimmy Anderson, good to see you. Alexander Sonic Plays, William Cullen. We got Ben Espinoza, Max Pokebra. We've got Nate Dogg, Ian Dunn. Making sure I don't do double shout outs. Anyway, all you guys who are here, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on a beautiful Saturday wingy, wherever you are. I hope it's beautiful. It's beautiful where I live. 70 degrees and sunny outside right now. It's great. And then I'm going to be heading down to the coast to go to work in just a little bit. So wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying a nice day and it doesn't suck. Before we get into The Rock, because we're going to open up with The Rock, then we're going to kind of transition into the news. Let me thank and give a big thank you to our friend Ryan Adams, who just chimed in with a very generous $50 drop. Thank you so much, my friend. When Cody tells The Rock no, the one person that is the wild card that would say yes is Drew. Didn't I just say that? Rock was the who announced his new contract. Really? At Netflix debut, Drew asked Rock for a favor, and the last person to pin Cody in a one-on-one match was Drew. I'm still having trouble remembering where that Drew and Cody match took place, but Cody brought that up with Drew like last week, that you were the one to pin me. And, Drew did the honors for Punk. That would make a lot of sense for Drew's character. For Drew to become the corporate champion, the ultimate heel with the backing of the final boss. This is a big, giant killer machine now with the backing of a dictator in The Rock, where he's going to, he's very much flaunting and flexing his power in the company. And he's definitely looking for a puppet. And don't forget, Rock was once a puppet. Survivor Series 1998, the way he swerved everybody, joined up with the McMahons. He was the very first corporate champion. He was the guy. And that was brought up, and that was created by Austin being the antithesis of a corporate champion, driving Vince McMahon nuts, so Vince created his own champion. Rock might be looking at Cody in the same way. After, how Rock brought it up last night about how Cody stepped in and took away his match with Roman Reigns. All of that is factoring into this, I would hope. I hope Rock wasn't out there just spinning their wheels and WWE has no creative plan. They're just dropping some crazy Rock storyline into the middle of their Mania main event, to generate more interest. Maybe they feel this Mania is coming along a little weaker than last year's, and so this is, in case of emergency, break open glass and pull out the Rock type of thing. Don't know. And that's what we're about to break down right now, Ryan. Thank you so much for that. So let's start today with that. Before we start with that, let me let you know what we're going to be doing tomorrow. I have a link up already. It's right there on the top of the YouTube page for tomorrow's classic watch-along. We're going to watch WCW Super Brawl 1996. This is our last chance to get in a WCW show before we really start hitting it big for WrestleMania season and doing a lot of WWE-related stuff. So we're going to squeeze in one final WCW pay-per-view tomorrow. Super Brawl 96, a couple of cage matches on the show. A lot of fun-looking matches when I looked at the card. We're going to be checking out that tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. There is a 10% chance I'm going to cancel it. I have a medical procedure tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, 6 hours before I go live. I'm getting a bone marrow biopsy. I'm getting a big-ass long needle stuck into my hip bone. It might suck. I'm not sure. Doc thinks I'm going to be all right. I've scheduled the stream. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But if I come home and I can't walk or sit down or anything like that, and I'm in a ton of pain, I might have to cancel it, but I feel like that's a very low probability. We are going to be here. Even if I'm a little sore, I'll be here for you guys because I love you guys. So keep that in mind for tomorrow. Monday, however, is up in the air with Raw. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a watch-along or a review or either. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. But tomorrow, that is the plan. Super Brawl 1996. Now we can get into our wrestling news. And we definitely have to start out with last night's SmackDown. And the biggest thing that took place on SmackDown was the return of The Rock. Otherwise, it was a pretty nothing show. Just SmackDown's been struggling. As a matter of fact, WWE in general, I feel like creative-wise has hit like a little bit of a skid here. And AEW is actually doing the opposite. They're starting to have a little bit of a turnaround, having a little bit better TVs. The booking seems a little bit more cohesive now, and they've just been on a run of some really good television. Whether or not the ratings are reflecting it doesn't matter. The TV has been good, where WWE's kind of been the opposite. They've kind of been putting us to sleep on SmackDown. I think part of that is because just 3 hours is just too fucking long. They took full advantage of that time last night with the way The Rock took a year and a half to get through and to get his message out, whatever he was trying to tell Cody. But otherwise, SmackDown, hasn't been a remarkably good show. And we've noticed some issues in the women's division, and there are some frustrations there. So things are not all perfect in WWE right now, and they're starting to, revert back to some of the problems we've seen them have before. Really good talent sitting on their ass doing nothing. Where the hell is Andrade? One of the best wrestlers in the company. I think breaking up with Charlotte might have hurt him politically in the company, because there's no reason why Miz and R-Truth should be on a SmackDown in 2025 and Andrade should not. That's really fucked up. So WWE ain't perfect over there for all you tribal dipshits out there. So things haven't been great on SmackDown lately, but we did get a little bit of storyline progression last night, just nothing very great. It was all pretty much centered around The Rock, and plus they had to kind of rewrite a lot of the matches. There was a big 6-man tag that was supposed to main event that was turned into a regular tag. Cody was a part of that. He was pulled out. And that was because a day before SmackDown, I believe on Thursday, The Rock posted a very cryptic like Instagram message or video somewhere on social media where he talked about making this big decision, and sometimes you just have to do it, and you didn't really know what he was talking about. But then it was also reported that Rock is going to be starring in a new Martin Scorsese film where he's going to be, you know, like a mob boss. It's going to star Leonardo DiCaprio. It's going to be Goodfellas meets The Departed. Scorsese doing another mob movie. What a surprise. But Rock's going to be a part of that. That's probably going to be his biggest gig ever, I would think, in terms of movies. So that's going on. But then, you know, he decides that he's going to stick his nose back in WWE and appear on SmackDown. Once that announcement was made, WWE had to bump some matches and change some matches. Like I said, they changed the 6-man, pulling Cody out of that. And I think they were going to pull Naomi and Liv. They received some backlash from it, put the match back on SmackDown, and then it just ended in a no contest anyway, or they never even got the match started. So that match never happened, and they did make some alterations to SmackDown last night to make room for The Rock. But honestly, that's not the part that bothered me. SmackDown's been shit for the past couple of weeks. I don't want to sit through 3 hours of crap. So if you stick The Rock in there for 45 minutes of it, great. Now you've eaten up some time. No problem. But my biggest concern with The Rock is what it's always been. Is he coming in and screwing up Mania plans? Are we going through this again? And I just really have a hard time believing that Rock, who sits on the TKO board, would jerk around his own company like that. Is he really sitting there being like, I'm just going to wait till the last minute and then tell them I want to work Mania and then watch them scramble, you know, to rewrite everything and rebook everything? You know, the talent that might negatively affect because of this. I just have a hard time believing that The Rock is that wishy-washy. So I would like to think, the adult in me would like to believe that the communication between WWE and The Rock has been way better than the way us fans are perceiving it to be, you know? So, because if that's the case, it can be really, really frustrating. So The Rock showing up last night on SmackDown. And it was announced before that he was going to be calling out Cody Rhodes. He posted a picture on Instagram of the Rolex that apparently Cody gifted to him before WrestleMania last year. He posted a picture of it like on the ground or something, kind of insinuating that he's going to call out Cody Rhodes. So Nick Aldis informs Cody on SmackDown that he's pulled him from the 6-man because The Rock wants to see him in the ring. So this came, I think, hour number 2 is when we got the segment between Rock and Cody. And The Rock came out to I guess like a new intro. I don't know if it's just going to be a temporary intro for just last night or if this is the intro that Rock is going to be using all through WrestleMania season. It's his normal theme, but it starts with like 15 seconds of a Lil Wayne song, which I've never heard, but apparently Rock's a big fan. And then it kind of transitions into his Hollywood Rock theme. So last night I was a little nervous when they started playing that other music. It's how I envision, like that first 15 seconds of Rock's theme. That's how I envisioned it would sound if he came out on Dynamite. You know, Rock would need a new song, so he'd probably have some mainstream star have some music for him or use somebody's music, and Tony would pony up for whatever it cost. It was kind of like a glimpse into what a universe would look like with The Rock and AEW. But then it transitioned into Hollywood Rock theme. He comes to the ring, and he calls out Cody Rhodes and talked about how Cody and him had become friends since last year, even talks about their mothers becoming friends, showed a picture of Mama Rhodes and Ada together last year at WrestleMania, and talked about how The Rock and Cody have shared tequila and they have become friends. And The Rock is also in typical Rock fashion. The Rock, I feel like sometimes views himself as like a creative genius. He isn't. And he was all over the place in this promo. He healed and baby-faced the crowd 2 times each. He healed the crowd, talked shit about them, and then turned right around and complimented the audience and talked about how much he loved them. And then 2 sentences later, tells a fan in the front row that he's going to slap the syphilis off his face. So Rock could not decide if he was a heel or he was a babyface. You know, patronized the crowd, placated the crowd a little bit, and then shit on them right in front of Cody. and then Cody is sitting there kind of staring at The Rock, very suspect-like, especially when Rock is, crapping on the fans. And that's when he tells Cody that he wants Cody to be his champion. I want you to be my champion. And Cody was like, well, that's nice, Rock, but I'm not WWE's champion, TKO's champion. I'm not your champion. I'm their champion. You, of all people, people's champ, should understand that. And so The Rock then goes into what was so annoying about this promo was that I felt like The Rock was going into it unscripted because he kept coming back around to the same thing every time. And there was just a lot of repetitive nonsense in here that he just kept saying the same thing over and over. And I'm like, well, you get to the fucking point. How many times can you say, I want you to be my champion? My champion brings up how many Instagram followers he has. I have 500 million Instagram followers. You can one day have as many Instagram followers as me. Who gives a goddamn shit how many Instagram followers you have? Why is that even being brought up in a wrestling promo? And so it was half like, is The Rock lecturing Cody? Is The Rock setting up a challenge here? I'm waiting for The Rock to challenge Cody to a match and then for Cody to be like, yeah, that's fine, Rock, but you got to get in the chamber if you want this. He told the same thing to Jacob Fatu before his qualifying match. Hey, you qualify for the chamber, win the chamber, then me and you can rock and roll. But until then, get to stepping. And he pretty much he should have told The Rock the same thing. So I'm sitting here wondering if The Rock is about to lay down some challenge. Like, what is this all about? And basically all The Rock says is that he wants Cody to be his champion. And if he allows The Rock to control him, essentially, then he can make all of Cody's dreams come true. You can be as big, if not bigger, a star than me. You can be the biggest star this industry has ever seen. Cody is on top of the world right now. I don't know why Cody would feel like he's got to achieve greater heights. He can still achieve this on his own. But Rock is saying in order to get to that upper echelon of Hogan's, Rock's, Austin's, whatever, or Cena, then this is something that Cody is going to have to do. And The Rock said that he is going to be at Elimination Chamber. So that's adding a big segment now to Elimination Chamber. And I just said they only sold like under 30,000 tickets. Could The Rock coming back in be a part of that to kind of generate a little bit more interest for the chamber? Maybe sell an extra 10,000 seats. Try to put 40K in there if they could. Is any of that factored into this? So The Rock said he's going to be at Elimination Chamber, and that's when he wants Cody's answer. And, Cody said, and that's when Rock mentioned the thing about the soul. He goes, I want that. And Cody looks at the belt. And he goes, you want my WWE championship? And The Rock's like, no, I don't want that. I want your soul. So he literally is asking, I guess, essentially Cody to sell out and become his corporate puppet. And he will be expecting an answer from Cody Rhodes next week at Elimination Chamber. So that's going to be a big segment to the chamber. So now I think we have 4 matches. We got the 2 chambers. We got the Owens and Zayn thing. And then we got that women's tag with Trish and the Cody and Rock segment. So it's essentially a 5-match card, 5-segment card. And that's a big segment that's added. Now, on the surface here, just right off the bat, Cody is going to tell Rock no. 100%. Cody has as good a chance of becoming The Rock's corporate puppet as Hulk Hogan did of selling the championship to the $1 Million Man back in 1987. Not going to happen yet. I'm all for a Cody heel turn. It's going to happen, and it's probably going to be pretty good when it does, especially if he dyes his hair black. But that's not going to happen yet. That's a ways off. I'd put that a year minimum off from now. So if it's not going to be Cody, and Cody is going to essentially disappoint The Rock at the Elimination Chamber, does that mean that one of the participants in the chamber becomes the corporate champion or becomes the corporate puppet? And Rock is going to, kind of be in this guy's corner. Is it going to be a situation like that where somebody's going to be fighting for him? Or is The Rock going to decide, nope, I'm going to go ahead and get in there and do it myself? And again, I don't really know how you do that. If this is going to somehow lead to Cody and Rock at WrestleMania, which right now it's not looking like it is, but that's what we thought a year ago. Night after WrestleMania with that interaction between Cody and Rock, we thought they were setting up something for this year. So now that The Rock is back interacting with Cody again, you would think that that's what they're going to do, but it might not be. If The Rock is not going to be in ring shape or whatever the F is going on, he might find somebody to face Cody on his behalf. So if he shows back up, and it just depends on when the Cody and Rock segment happens at Chamber. If it happens before the men's main event, which is probably going to have to, then you can have The Rock showing back up there and helping somebody win, like a Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre would make a lot of sense. Might be a little bit of a letdown if it's Drew, because, then that means we're likely going to get Logan and Cena and that triple threat Punk, Seth, and Roman match. And at this point, I think I would prefer Seth and Roman one-on-one rather than the triple threat. So I kind of want that match broken up. I feel like there's somebody's got to be the odd man out here. So it could be Drew McIntyre, but we've also heard that the working plan internally from WWE was Cena versus Cody at WrestleMania. And I've had my issue with that. We talked all about that last week. I said, this is before The Rock came back. I said, when you look at that field, the 6 guys in the chamber, who of those men do you think would provide the best build with Cody Rhodes in a one-on-one program for the next 8 weeks? To me, that person is CM Punk. Cena would be intriguing, but it would be way too much of a love fest. It would be built too much on respect. They'd probably start making out and having a live sex celebration in the middle of the ring. We've already seen Seth and Cody. We need to see that again, but I'm not sure if that would be appropriate here. And Roman and Cody, I thought doing the third match would also be kind of cool, but it feels like Seth and Roman are on their own collision course. So when you think about all of that, when you look at the chamber field, Punk is my guy. He's the one that I think would have the most fun with Cody leading up to WrestleMania. Maybe WWE feels getting that match in the ring wouldn't be so good one-on-one due to maybe Punk's limitations. So they're going in a different direction with McIntyre becoming The Rock's corporate puppet, and maybe, just maybe, McIntyre can still get that moment that he lost 5 years ago at WrestleMania 36, winning the title in the main event of WrestleMania, something he still hasn't technically done since it was all done in the PC. I thought that ship had long sailed for Drew, but maybe everything he did last year, he was in a great feud with CM Punk. That was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun mostly because of him. They both did their part. And so WWE should reward that type of work, especially when McIntyre's coming in and doing the job for Punk in the cell. You got to think, if you're Triple H, look, do the job for Phil. I'll make it up to you. So if anybody's got Drew on their bingo card for this, that might be a good pick. And that would certainly be a swerve I would not be expecting if it was McIntyre getting the nod here. But then I almost think that Cody would retain anyway. If McIntyre beat him once and pinned him, what's he going to do? Turn around and pin him again? Wouldn't Cody be due a win back here? And if it is McIntyre, then we're going to be looking at a program anyway. So regardless of whichever man wins the chamber and faces Cody, it ain't going to be a one-off. You're going to get a match at Backlash or whatever the hell the next show is. You're going to. So, maybe Cody retains and then drops it after that, or maybe he loses, wins it back. I don't know. And if it isn't Drew McIntyre, could it be CM Punk or could it be John Cena? A lot of people want CM Punk to turn heel. And I think he would be a good heel. I'm just not sure how good he would be up against The Rock. It would, or up aligning with The Rock, I should say. Because Punk's made it pretty clear that over the years, how he feels about Dwayne. And I think it would be pretty funny if Punk, maybe internally was scheduled to face Cody, and now Rock has come in and fucked it all up, and Phil has to take a backseat to Dwayne again. It's part of the reason why he left in 2014. So all that happening again, would be kind of crazy. But putting CM Punk in a suit, standing next to The Rock, he's not going to drink any tequila or anything because Punk's straight edge. So none of that really fits to me. But I've also seen a lot of people talk about John Cena. It was all over social media last night. I was getting DMs about it. Oh my God, this is it. John Cena's turning heel. And I'm like, what? One thing that I think we've learned about Triple H as a booker is he's conservative. He doesn't go crazy. Think about since just in the last year or two, all the wild scenarios I've pitched, great returns, title changes, things like that. Even most recently with Kevin Owens, beating Cody Rhodes, winning the title, and doing a screw job type of deal. And I have all these great ideas. Triple H just so far hasn't really been that kind of booker where he's going to shock us for the sake of shocking us. He's going to go with the safer routes most of the time. And to me, turning John Cena heel 8 months before he retires, that just doesn't seem logical to me. I feel like we missed that boat. If this would have been 2013, hell yeah, let's turn John Cena heel and let's print some money. But he's on his retirement run after everything John Cena did, being the quintessential babyface, kissing the babies and doing the Make-A-Wishes and being the company guy and the talk show guy and, having a clean-cut image and just being a good person. All of a sudden, after 20 years, the final 8 months of his career, he's going to retire as a piece of shit bad guy? No. That is so far beyond what Triple H would do. Triple H isn't that kind of booker. Tony Khan might do something like this. Vince McMahon might have in, the late 90s, but not Triple H in 2025. I just don't see that. Plus, John Cena is going to have to be on board for this as well, or on board with this. Triple H can't just be like, hey, John, for your last 8 months, we're going to make you the world's worst bad guy. John Cena's like, why would you do that? So unless John Cena went to WWE and said, this is what I want to do, then I think they would do it. But I just don't think that's the case unless John Cena's gearing up for a big villain role in a movie or something and he wants to go out like this. I don't feel like that's a possibility. But The Rock and John Cena teaming up, John Cena being recruited by The Rock to become his corporate champion, his corporate puppet, John Cena doing that does not seem likely to me. If they did it, I'm all for craziness. So I'm not against this idea of John Cena being the corporate heel champion. I just don't see any way in hell it could happen. And it's all over the place. Just Alex, shout out to him on YouTube. He was DMing me last night. Oh my God, it's going to happen. And then I went over on social media and everybody's talking about John Cena turning heel. I'm like, am I the only one who doesn't see this as being a logical possibility? I just don't. It doesn't mean I'm against it or anything like that. I do whatever you want. I don't fucking care. I just don't think they're going to do that. What has Triple H done since taking over that makes you think a decision like that is something he would make? Not to me. And I also am very, very nervous that even though The Rock is back and even though they're working this I want your soul angle with Cody, I still feel like this is operating largely without a plan. And that's what makes me nervous about this whole thing. WWE constantly doing shit without a plan. The way The Rock was going round and round in his promo last night made it sound like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're not sure what to do yet. And so if that's the case and they're trying to now work The Rock into their Mania creative for the main event, then he's going to have to be in somebody's corner. So we will see if any of this changes. If Rock is going to be remaining on the sidelines throughout Mania season, being a part of the Mania build and having somebody fight as his proxy or on his behalf, which would be weird since he was just in the ring a year ago, or if there's something more happening here. Is there still a way to get to Rock and Roman? Because it seems like Rock and Roman might be in completely different Mania programs. We'll see what happens, but Roman's not even in the chamber. So I feel like Roman could show up in the chamber and cost Rollins, and then that sets up their match. But if Roman and Rock go through the entire WrestleMania season without interacting, that's going to be telling in terms of what's going on behind the scenes. Because something tells me deep down, Rock and Roman don't like each other. Just this instinct I have, And so we'll see how they interact. I can't see them not interacting at all. There's going to have to be something where they cross. If it's going to be Rollins and Roman and Rock is going to be doing his thing with Cody, something's going to have to intersect there. And we'll see if it turns into a similar situation from last year with some guys working both main events. Imagine if this somehow turns into Cody facing The Rock, like The Rock wants a title shot. And then Cody's like, well, I guess I got to face you on night one. I'll defend against you on night one, and I'll defend against the winner of the chamber on night two. If they were to do something like that, do you realize that would be 5 WrestleMania main events for Cody in 3 years? WrestleMania 39, and then both 40 and 41 main event in both nights. I don't know where that leaves Uso and Gunther. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. I feel like Jey and Gunther are going to have to open. They're going to have to open night one or night two. Probably night one. Much like, or maybe night two, like Seth and Drew did last year. So I worry how The Rock's involvement is going to fuck over other talent. Let's hope it won't be too bad. Let me know where you think all this is heading with The Rock and the corporate champion and Cody and WrestleMania and the Chamber. And I feel like Rock is going to have a heavy influence on the Chamber, not only in a segment with Cody, but assuming that happens before the Men's Chamber, I think we're going to see The Rock back in the Chamber match as well. And we might see The Rock and Roman showing up. One to screw over a guy, one to help a guy. Roman could show up, screw over Seth and Punk, and then Rock can help either Drew McIntyre or John Cena win. That's probably how it's going to be. But let me know how you feel about all of that. It's a wild situation going on right now in WWE. It feels a little bit better than last year, though. Last year, I was really concerned about Cody really being screwed. And, Rock bringing that up, mentioning it. You can tell that all this, I love you, you're my brother, the way he was touching his face and his ear last night, he's full of shit. He definitely has a lot of animosity towards Cody. He brought up how Cody slapped him, and nobody would get away with that. The reason you got away with it is because you're special, and talked about how he came in and said, I wanted the match. We're going to move Cody aside. And then Cody decided that he wanted to face Roman and screwed everything up. So Rock has some issues there. Rock is still very much offended about that, or offended by that from last year. So that could be part creatively of his motivations here to try to turn Cody into his puppet. And then if he can't, to find someone who will destroy him. And that's what he told him. He goes, if you don't take me up on my offer, I will make your life a living hell. Because I'm not on the TKO board. I am the most powerful man in the company, is what he claims. So that part I do kind of like. It might tap into, too many kind of negative feelings that we have right now in our own country, about abusing power and things like that. But I think The Rock coming in like that very terrifying figure that can pretty much do whatever he wants to anyone is frightening, especially if you have drawn the ire, of The Rock, where he is now, or he views you as his enemy. And that's the situation Cody's going to be in inevitably next week when he declines The Rock's offer. So we'll see. A lot to think about, a lot to unpack mentally, and we'll be breaking a lot down as the weeks go by here. We'll see how this all shakes out, and if The Rock is going to be on TV pretty much consistently now through WrestleMania, because if he's here to try to find himself a corporate champion, he's going to have to be on TV a lot. Probably both Raw and SmackDown, especially if a Raw guy wins the Chamber. But if it's Drew, I kind of ruled out Drew and Priest because I thought the WWE would want Cody's Mania build to be on both shows. So if it's Punk or if it's Cena or if it's Rollins or somebody like that, you can do a lot of stuff on Raw and SmackDown. But if it's Drew, all this shit might be confined, to SmackDown. And Raw might have everything else. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on with some wrestling news since we've been flapping our gums about The Rock for a half an hour. Let's talk about, since we're talking about The Rock and we're talking about SmackDown last night, let's roll through the rest of the results from SmackDown last night since it wasn't a crazy show. We can do this pretty quick. Then we'll backtrack to the news. Also on SmackDown last night, before the show aired, Kevin Owens posted another video on social media, only this time he wasn't in his car. He was standing in front of, a white wall, and it was talking about Sami Zayn, and Sami now has his match for Elimination Chamber, and Sami didn't consider what this is going to do to him and what this is going to do to his family. And then he kind of pans his camera over to reveal that he's standing right outside the window of Sami Zayn's home. And you see Sami with his wife and his kid inside. Very cool, very creepy stuff. And Kevin Owens is playing some serious mind games with Sami Zayn. I don't think he's going to burn the house down the way Hangman Page would have. But he still is now milling around the home of Sami Zayn. So my belief is that at the Chamber, whatever they do, it's going to be an angle to set up the WrestleMania match. This is a non-sanctioned match, so we might not even get a match. It might just be a full-blown brawl or something like that to where they maybe set up a Hell in the Cell. Last time we had a Hell in the Cell at Mania was WrestleMania 39. I was there, Edge and Balor. Balor's gone now. Maybe create a new Mania Hell in the Cell to look back on for recent memory and recent video package purposes with a couple of guys in your own company. So Owens and Zayn, Hell in the Cell at Mania, I'm down. I hope that's what they set up at the Chamber. We had Jimmy Uso last night beat Drew McIntyre with a roll-up. Now, Drew also recently got beat by Jey Uso kind of in the same way, right? So a lot of fans have been pointing out that something's going on with Drew. At least we hope. If they do these quick losses and it doesn't lead to anything, then, what the fuck? So when you combine some of the little hints, with Rock and Drew and, and Rock, whatever you guys talked about earlier about owing the favor, Drew was the last person to pin Cody, and now he's suffered these losses. You know, he can kind of blame himself. He blamed himself a little for the loss against Punk at the Cell, and now he's dropped a couple of quick matches because maybe he's losing focus or he's got something going on mentally in his head that he needs to sharpen up, you know, and maybe he needs to align with somebody like The Rock who can give him the backing and the confidence that he needs or that he's missing or whatever. So these little things could all add up to that. And that might be the trail that they're leading for us. But, you know, McIntyre just really hasn't been on my Mania main event radar. If anything, I thought he was going to take a step down and work with Priest or something like that one-on-one. It may be bigger than that. So McIntyre, I feel like, is back in the mix after not being in the mix at all. I think when it comes down to, if it's going to come down to Rock, you know, having this corporate goon, then Drew, I think, is the most likely of all of them. More likely than Punk, more likely than Cena. I didn't even bring up Rollins because there's no way Rollins would do that after everything that went on with him last year with Rock and stuff. So no way. The only one that would make any sense would be McIntyre or maybe Logan Paul. Think about that shit. Let's not think about that, shall we? Also, last night on SmackDown, we had more of the Bloodline stuff. So Jacob and Solo Sikoa are backstage. I think Solo arrives and Jacob and Tama are waiting there for him. And Solo is like talking about the match, the tag match. And he said, you know, I'm going to have you and Tama's back tonight. And Jacob's like, no. You're going to get in the ring and do some work. It's going to be me and you. We're going to go up against Priest and Strowman. And then Solo was like, okay. See, that's why I love you, Jacob. So there's this look on Jacob's face when he's talking to Solo, like, you just make one wrong fucking move. I dare you. And Solo sees this, and he knows that he's on unbelievably thin ice, and the werewolf will be unleashed on his face. So I do love that dynamic because you can see it. They have completely, you know, the poles have reversed here, where now Jacob is staring a hole through Solo. It's no more just professing my love. I'm here for you. I'm your devoted soldier. You know, now it's like one wrong move. I'm watching everything you do, and I will eat you the minute you fuck up. And I love that because Solo recognizes it, and you can tell that Solo recognizes it. And now he's being very careful. He's tiptoeing very gingerly around this sleeping giant that he knows is going to have him for lunch when the opportunity comes. And I think that opportunity is going to be at WrestleMania. So we'll see when all of this finally implodes between the two, but I feel like it's already like so close to exploding. It's got to be any day. So, you know, I talked about Andrade earlier not being on SmackDown, and I usually don't get too caught up on where's the so-and-so and how come he was on TV and stuff like that. WWE, for the most part, once they start featuring people and they're doing stuff, they're on TV every week. But if they don't have anything creatively for you and you're not in a feud, then sometimes you just don't do anything. But seeing Andrade not on the show normally wouldn't bother me, but seeing The Miz and R-Truth on the show does. It's 2025, not 2011. And the fact that there's TV time for them and not Andrade is a little weird to me. That's all I'm saying. And The Miz is now tag teaming with Carmelo Hayes. So Carmelo Hayes, keep in mind, the number one draft pick, mind you, is now teaming with The Miz. They're going to be taking on R-Truth and LA Knight. Now, backstage, The Miz, I think it was Carmelo, let R-Truth know that they're going to have a match, and R-Truth said his partner is going to be a Louisiana legend. So Carmelo and Miz come out. R-Truth comes out to the stage to introduce the Louisiana legend, LA Knight, because LA is the state abbreviation for Louisiana, right? So Louisiana Knight came out, even though he's from Maryland and his nickname is Los Angeles. R-Truth thought he was Louisiana. That was funny. A lot of what R-Truth does these days is just kind of like, okay, but he can still be funny. He can still pull out some funny ones. Some of it is kind of getting old, but the Louisiana Knight stuff was hilariously fun. Not sure why Miz and Carmelo Hayes are tag teaming. That's very weird. They're doing the whole, I'm trying to hog the spotlight thing between the two of them. It's probably just going to lead to a feud with Carmelo beating the Miz, but still, I feel like they should be coming up with something a little bit better for Hayes to do, considering how fucking talented the guy is. So just like before Vince left, you know, one of the problems WWE had back then was calling up NXT talent without a plan. That's what they did with Carmelo, and he's suffering for it. Nakamura got involved. He nailed LA Knight on the outside of the ring, allowing Miz and Carmelo to kind of hit like a double code breaker on R-Truth in the ring for the win. So they got the win in that tag match. Tiffany, this was kind of interesting. Tiffany defeated Candice LeRae in a one-on-one match. Prettiest moonsault for the win, along with an ugliest moonsault on the outside of the ring. In the middle of the match, Charlotte just comes out. Her music hits, and she just comes out and sits there like an idiot. And Tiffany gets the win, like I said, with the prettiest moonsault. Right after that, Nia Jax attacks Tiffany Stratton from behind. That brings out Trish Stratus. Her music hits. Trish comes out. She gets taken out. And then Nia stacks Tiffany and then puts Trish on top of her and goes up to the second rope and proceeds to hit the absolute worst annihilator or bonsai drop in the history of the industry. Here's why I'm giving it a pass. Because when I look at that, I didn't see a shitty annihilator first. I saw Nia Jax protecting a sacred legend. Trish Stratus is holy ground in our business. And when it comes to wrestling and botches and moves that look like shit, we see countless numbers of them on a weekly basis across all companies. All you AEW botch account runners out there need to get fucking laid, because it doesn't happen in one company. It happens in all companies, big ones, small ones. If it's in a wrestling ring, botches are going to happen. And Matthew, our friend at Botchamania, is going to have an endless supply of content for his YouTube channel. It does not matter what company you're in. But since we have so many of those botches across the entire industry, if there's ever an ugly looking move that I can give a pass to, it's when you're protecting your fellow wrestler or protecting a legend, an older legend in Trish Stratus. And don't forget how bad of a reputation Nia Jax once had about being unsafe in the ring. And my God, when that Becky Lynch thing happened, if I had a fucking nickel for every fan, she's unsafe in the ring. I'm like, she just potatoed somebody, man. God, happens all the time. Didn't John Cena's nose get moved from the front of his face to his ear one time in a Monday Night Raw match? All the blood and broken noses and cauliflower ears and broken jaws and missing teeth that happen in wrestling, it happens. So I even gave Nia Jax a pass back then, because I felt like every fan was sharing the same brain on this. I'm like, can we just please move a little bit beyond she's unsafe in the ring and actually just examine it here? Rob Van Dam used to have way more unsafe in the ring comments than Nia Jax, and he's a legend. Some people are just a little reckless. And Nia Jax bludgeoning poor Becky Lynch's face sucked for her, but it ain't ballet. You know, so I always thought that Nia Jax had some unjust criticisms and some justified, because after the Becky Lynch stuff, I didn't blame her for the Becky Lynch stuff, but some of the things we saw from Nia Jax after that definitely came across as unsafe. She hurt Kairi Sane. She hurt a couple of people, and she got a really bad reputation for that. So I'd rather her be a little bit extra careful. Granted, maybe she was too careful last night, but I'd rather her be extra careful than extra reckless. And if you are, I don't know how much Nia Jax weighs, but she's a large woman, as we know, and she's going to bonsai drop, Yokozuna squash a couple of people, and one of those people under you is the legendary Trish Stratus. Yo, Nia Jax, thanks for looking out for Trish. I'm not going to shit on you for the ugly move. I'm going to thank you for protecting our girl. Thank you. I mean, Nia Jax, her run since returning has been virtually flawless. I have done a complete 180 on her. I used to not even stand the sight of her. You know, I wanted her nowhere near WWE TV. Every time she came out, she was a channel changer. It's been the literal opposite since she's come back. Not only is she not making me change the channel, she's making me pay attention. Even her matches are better. Everything Nia Jax has done since coming back, in my mind, in my opinion, has been A+. So I'm going to give her a pass on this one, you know, because she protected Trish, and you guys know how I feel about Trish. So anyway, way to go, Nia Jax. I'm going to be the one person praising you today, as everybody else appears to be shitting on you. Like I said, that Liv Morgan and Naomi match never got underway. Big attack from Raquel and Liv attacked Bianca and Naomi when Bianca was out there with Naomi making her entrance. So the match never got started. The 4 of them are involved in a tag team title match this Monday on Raw. So the titles are on the line, and I feel like that might be where we see something break in the story, because backstage it was more of Naomi saying, no, I know Liv and Raquel did it, so you know what that means. I'm holding out hope that Bianca Belair is the one behind this, and she does a surprise heel turn, and she joins up with the Street Profits, and they form this fucking dominant heel trio with Bianca as the women's champion and the Street Profits as the tag team champions, and Bianca and Montez are, going out on the town, riding in limos, drinking champagne, and just living the life and being that type of heel, that cocky, arrogant, I have it all type of heel with, a killer badass instinct in Bianca Belair, especially if she beats Rhea Ripley. Oh my God. I cannot even begin to tell you how aroused I get at the thought of an idea like that, but I don't think it's going to happen. It's probably going to be Naomi who attacked Jade Cargill, and that's all it's going to mean. And maybe they drop the titles. I think they do. I think Liv and Raquel win the titles on Monday while also being revealed as not to be the attackers of Jade Cargill. So I think we'll get either a Naomi, likely a Naomi, maybe a 5% chance it's Bianca, but I think Naomi's going to be the one that's revealed. And that somehow ties in to the 2 of them dropping the titles. And then if they do, right after that, maybe just bring Jade back on Monday. Just bring her out. Bring her. Or shit. Well, how do you do that? Because then you're going to go into the chamber, And so if they do some heel turn on Monday, then Bianca and Naomi are going to be in the chamber together. I don't know what's going to happen there. They might cancel each other out or something like that. Unless it's just going to be Naomi against Jade Cargill at WrestleMania instead of Jade Cargill against Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. I don't know. Or maybe maybe it's a setup and Jade attacked herself and her and Naomi are heels, and Bianca's odd man out as a babyface. I don't know. But I think we're going to get the beginning of this saga starting to unfold on Monday. And plus, the only way I believe, I've talked about this before, the only way I believe Liv Morgan is going to get a WrestleMania match is if she's tag team champions with Raquel. Because I've seen a lot of Mania cards. People are just typing out their own Mania cards. Y'all got way too many matches, man. I had somebody put on Mania. They had just a regular one-on-one match between 2 women with no championship on the line. That's not going to happen. I'm not even convinced the US or the IC for the women. I don't think either of those belts are going to be defended at WrestleMania. Sorry. I mean, they might stick a 4-woman on there or something, or maybe 2 4-ways, one on each show to cram a bunch of women on the show. They could do that. That's WWE's way. But I'm not convinced either one of them are going to be defended. And there's definitely not going to be a women's match not involving a title. There's not going to be just a one-on-one singles match on the Mania card for the women that doesn't involve a title. There's no way. There's last year, 7 matches on each show? So we're talking 14 matches here. I think the men's IC and US will get defended, but I don't think the women's will. I don't. So Liv Morgan, the only way she would get on the card is if she was in a world title match, and she's not going to be. And I suppose they could stick her in a multi-woman for the IC or US, but like I said, I'm not convinced those belts will even be defended. But the tags will. I believe the tags will. So Liv and Raquel being tag team champions, that puts Liv Morgan on the WrestleMania card where she belongs because she had a great year. So I'm happy for her there. And I'm actually rooting for her and Raquel to pick up the tags on Monday because I just desperately want to see Bianca do something else. DIY versus Pretty Deadly last night ended in a no contest. Street Profits showed up and attacked there. And the main event saw Damian Priest and Braun Strowman defeating Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Jacob super kicked Solo by mistake, so Jacob fucked up here. And Braun wound up taking out Jacob and Tama over the announce table. And then the South of Heaven choke slam to Solo in the ring for the win. So it was Jacob that kind of screwed up last night. We'll see if now Solo gets a chance to be mad at Jacob. But I think if Solo steps out of line, it's going to be rest in peace Solo. So Monday's Raw, like I said, we got the tag team title match for the women, and we also have Lyra Valkyria defending her IC title against Dakota Kai, who won the number 1 contenders match last night. And like I said, here's what we got for the chamber card. Trish and Tiffy against Candice and Nia. We got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in that unsanctioned deal, the women's chamber, the men's chamber, and the Rock and Cody segment. That's all on tap for the chamber. So that pretty much does it for SmackDown. Now we can go back to the news and get into some more stuff. Before we do that, let me go back to the chat here and see what you guys are saying. Get this refreshed because I think there's a couple of more supers to nail, and then we will get into this interesting Tony Khan and Shane McMahon news regarding their meeting last year. Let's see. There we go. James Rosano, we'll start with you. Thanks, man. Appreciate the $2. Greg, I hope your health is good. My guy, best wishes. Thank you so much for that, James. I appreciate it. Uncle Donk is here with 5. I doubt Cody will turn heel. Kids will stop buying his merch. That's just way too simple of a way to look at it. I agree with you that Cody's not going to turn heel right now, but I don't think WWE will ever do another 20-year babyface like John Cena. Cody will turn heel. Cody is a great champion. He's a great champion for kids. He's a great babyface. He's a great figurehead for the company. He's a great role model, all that stuff. But his popularity will phase out. You could argue that it already has over the course of the past year. Even with his character, it feels like he's still a champion doesn't have 1,000,000% confidence in himself. The way he teamed up with Roman. Sometimes, people saying these things in his promos against him, like Punk, like Rock, kind of putting things in his head about how his legacy will measure up as a champion, that type of thing. He seems to have, still an issue with Roman Reigns and views him as a potential threat to his spot, that type of thing. So I think there's a lot of that going on with Cody to where that would make for a perfect segue into his heel run when it happens. So in terms of Cody joining The Rock and being his corporate puppet and all of that, hell no, 100% in agreement with you, Uncle Donk. But in terms of Cody turning heel in the future, absolutely. You can't just say kids will stop buying his merch, so we're not going to do it. It's not that simple. There's way more to it than that, and eventually Cody will get stale, and a change will need to happen. Otherwise, you turn into what you did with John Cena with the fans turning on your product for so many years. WWE will not make that same mistake with Cody. They won't. No way. Michael Cuomo, thanks for the $2. Rock was straight up creepy. Like, he was creepy. Don't touch my ear. Don't touch my ear. The way he put his hands on the Rock's face, get your fucking hand off me, asshole. Yeah, he was definitely creepy. And the way he's kind of imposing, his power, like, if I wanted to, I could really make your life miserable. And not only for Cody, but for everybody. So now you've got a roster that has to walk around in fear of The Rock. And like I said, that might hit a little bit too close to home for some, based on everything that's going on in our stupid country right now. Ryan Adams, thanks for the $20. Cody says no. Then later on, someone in the chamber is taken out before the match, like Edge did to Kofi when he lost the title earlier, but then won the championship. But The Rock says, I found a replacement, and here comes Randy. I thought about Randy Orton being dropped into the middle of this, sure, for sure, but does that mean what the package pile driver isn't going to be followed up with? What does that mean? If Randy comes back as a corporate heel, does that mean he just doesn't want revenge on Kevin Owens? He's cool with what happened? That has to be rectified somehow. But that would be a cool theory, though, in itself, just for Randy to be a part of this as well. And I think having something happen like somebody getting taken out of the chamber is a possibility. I think it's got to be Priest. If anybody gets taken out, it's got to be Priest, or it's got to be Seth. It's got to be Seth. And if Rock and Roman are going to have an association for WrestleMania season, I'm starting to think they're going to work separate programs. But if they do overlap and this is all intertwined, then it could be Roman taking out Seth. But Roman's a babyface now. So unless WWE feels he didn't hit as hard as a babyface as they were hoping, and now they're going to switch him back heel, I feel like Roman... Shit, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Seth's kind of a face too. But Roman taking out Rollins, would work, and then Rock could bring somebody out, or Rock himself could enter. That's one thing we shouldn't rule out yet. If Cody and Rock's segment happens before Cody says no, this pisses The Rock off so much that he doesn't want to get revenge on Cody by having someone else beat him. He wants to do it. I now want to take that title from you. So maybe he calls up his cousin, take out Rollins tonight, before the Chamber, I'm going to take his place. And when I beat Cody, I'll give you the first title shot. And then you get Rollins and Seth, or Rollins and Roman at Mania. Rock wins the Chamber now, which would be crazy. And now Rock winning the Chamber? No. But then it would be Rock and Cody. That's the only way to get to Rock and Cody. Take out somebody in the Chamber, or you put a fifth pod right in the middle of the ring. And The Rock is in there just eating popcorn, watching, and all the wrestlers have to work around it. They have to work around the pod in the middle of the ring, take all their bumps and be wary of the pod while The Rock's just in there popcorning it, watching. That could be fun. So maybe with The Rock getting in, that could work. But again, that would feel like they've completely uprooted what the WrestleMania plans were. Population too many. Thanks for the 2. Cena has to win the Chamber. If not, what else is there? The only other thing I can think of would be a match with Logan Paul. Every fan in the world is rejecting this. I don't want his last Mania match to be against Logan Paul. Why not? Why does everybody say that? Every fan who wanted nothing to do with Cena, wanted him not winning matches, much less compete on matches at WrestleMania, all of a sudden care who his last Mania opponent is going to be. So many people that used to have John Cena is a homo in their bios 15 years ago are now complaining about who he's facing in his final WrestleMania. Like, you give a shit. Come on. I think that's flimsy and it's weak, and too many fans are saying it. As a guy who spent the last 15 years on this YouTube channel defending John Cena, I'd have no problem with Cena and Logan Paul for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't want Cody and Cena at Mania. I don't. I'd rather save that for Cena's retirement match at the end of the year. I've talked about that 100 times. So that gets him out of that. Plus, John Cena and Logan Paul are 2 part-timers. Even though John Cena is coming back to do his retirement run, I'm not seeing a guy that looks like he's all in. I was hoping for John Cena to be tanned, in shape, hair buzzed like the old days. He's still got the Crispin Glover and the bald spot going on. And he just doesn't seem like physically he's just a 1,000,000% all in. So Cena and Logan, that would be huge mainstream buzz. They could build the match outside of a WWE ring, on Kimmel, on podcasts, on red carpets. They could do all sorts of stuff that would give WWE all kinds of publicity everywhere else, because I would argue that John Cena and Logan Paul are both household names. I hate to say that, but I think it's true. So that would be a big match on the marquee for WWE, for John Cena to do. I think the fans saying that, though, I guess I understand from the standpoint of, hey, we only have a year left of John Cena. I'd rather burn off matches on matches we actually want to see. Fair enough. I'd rather see John Cena and Punk mix it up one more time, or Cena and Orton, or maybe even Cena and AJ for fun, maybe more than Cena and Logan Paul. But I'm just saying, like, what that will do for the Mania publicity, mainstream media coverage, that type of thing. WWE already has their fingers all over ESPN and, all over the college football stuff. Now getting into the, more Hollywood side, wouldn't hurt either with The Rock and John Cena. And then Logan Paul is doing a whole different realm and all of that. So publicity-wise, I think it would be a good match to do, and I wouldn't necessarily reject it. So that's what Cena could do if he doesn't win the Chamber. But I'm starting to think that it probably is going to be Cena and Cody. And like I said last week, one of the problems I have with that is I think the feud and the build would be based too much around respect and mutual respect and love, almost too much love to where there's no heat. You plunk The Rock in the middle of this, that could change everything. Maybe Cena wins. Maybe Cena and Cody both reject The Rock's proposal. And then The Rock says, one of you has accepted my proposal. One of you said yes. I know who it is. The person who said yes knows who it is, but nobody else does. And then you got Cody and Cena, and we're going to find out at WrestleMania. The Rock will say, one of them has accepted my offer, but you're not going to find out which one accepted the offer until WrestleMania. And then you got both guys distrusting each other. You get the fans guessing who it's going to be, that type of thing. And then maybe it turns out to be nobody and Rock was blowing smoke, or you do some, ultimate turn or something. Maybe it's something like that. So Cody and Cena, I didn't want to see that match at WrestleMania because I just kind of thought it would be a little boring. Yeah, to be honest, I thought Cody and Punk would have way more fun of a build to me than Cody and Cena would. So maybe a way to make Cody and Cena a little less boring and to not make every single promo they do the exact same. I love you. No, I love you, man. No, I love you. Because that's all it's going to be. So the only way to make that a little bit more exciting, drop The Rock in there. We'll see. We'll see. Uncle Donk, 5 more. I wish Goldberg was more careful when he gave Brett a concussion. Yeah, I think we all do. Mike Witt, good to see you, my friend. Hey, Greg and chat, any plans for a watch along tomorrow? Yeah, I just mentioned it. It's already up. The link, Super Brawl 96. And that's provided I am feeling okay, which I think I will. But we do have that planned for tomorrow. Hope you're doing well, Greg. My favorite YouTuber out there. Thank you for that, Mike Witt. Tomas Aridia is in the house. What's up, bro? Fantasy booking here, but what if Punk wins and his favor was for The Rock to help him win his title? Then they could recreate the Mania 17 finish, but correctly this time. That's true, but Heyman is the one that owes Punk the favor. Unless Heyman is somehow factored into this as well. You have to wonder if Heyman teams up with Punk or something. But yeah, a lot of people have mentioned the WrestleMania 17 finish, and there could be some handshake there at the end with somebody. That could happen. Ryan Adams, 5 more. Dave did say once Cena is done filming his current film, he will be around almost every week. Okay, well, that's good to know. So if Cena's done filming and then he wins the Chamber, at least it's good to know that he'll be on TV every week during the build. But I think a Cody and Cena program would just be a little bit too much love for us. You know, I mean, some of that stuff's great. I love a match and an epic match built on respect, but it feels like there's a lot of weeks, and I feel like every promo would be largely the same with those two if they went in that direction. Let's finally talk about some wrestling news, since we haven't gotten any of that yet. Let's talk a little bit about this Tony Khan and Shane McMahon development that we learned about. They, of course, had a meeting last year, which was photographed by someone. It was floating around online, and then that ramped up the speculation that Shane McMahon could maybe be coming into AEW. And when you combine that with all of the cryptic stuff Jon Moxley was saying at the beginning of the Death Riders angle, and it started to feel like something big was on the horizon, and maybe he was speaking like that under the assumption that maybe Shane would come in, and then everything fell through, and now the Death Riders angle is kind of fizzled. Whatever the case was, it sounds like the two sides were never really that close to getting together. The coach, on his Coach and Bro show, Coachman and Vince Russo have a podcast together. Yeah, no, thank you. I will never listen to a moment of that. And I didn't hear either, but based on what I could gather from the wrestling sites and from Fightful Select and a couple of the transcripts that I read, Jonathan Coachman said in so many words that after the meeting, Shane McMahon kind of got ghosted by Tony Khan. And apparently during the meeting, Shane was very interested in owning equity in AEW and wanted to be fully in charge. That's just, hearsay, but apparently it's accurate. He wanted to have a lot of power in the company, and I think he wanted to take over the creative direction. After that meeting, Tony Khan didn't really follow up, and it was described by Jonathan Coachman as ghosting. Now, here's what Fightful Select had to say about this yesterday, and I quote, "According to a source close to Shane McMahon, Khan did not follow up with Shane. That source also claimed that they couldn't speak on the desire for equity, but that it seemed like Shane McMahon did want to, quote, run things, but didn't have the product knowledge or familiarity with AEW or their business model. That source close to McMahon also said that Shane didn't seem to take it personally that Khan didn't follow up after that, and that it seemed like Khan almost thought Shane was joking when he mentioned the possibility of running everything. The source indicated that he believed that Shane viewed his insight and abilities to run a show as valuable after witnessing years of fans and people in the industry wanting anyone but Vince in that role. There was never an expanded plan for Shane to appear on AEW TV or be involved in the company. Those that we've spoken to within AEW said that Tony Khan hadn't spoken about it extensively outside of noting that the two sides simply met and aren't working together. The source close to McMahon that we spoke with claimed that they wouldn't rule out a cameo appearance, but didn't think they would extensively do business together at this stage." So sounds like no hard feelings there, but what was discussed, Shane McMahon might be expecting a little bit more than Tony Khan was willing to give. And when it comes down to like, control and of your company and stuff, that's not something that owners generally give up very easily. And turning your company over to the hands of a McMahon is probably something, if I'm Tony Khan, I wouldn't do either. And Tony Khan, obviously, he's got his critics out there, and there's one part of the pool that's just a little bit extra crazy than others. And I don't really take much stock in those type of fans. But when you really look throughout the history of the business, there's only been one winning formula for long-term success in pro wrestling. And that one winning formula is having one guy in charge. And the only other company to successfully do this was WWE. The reason they were successful for so long is because it was one guy in charge. The buck stops with one guy and one guy only. It was also a success in the territory days, but that was limited to their regional area. The Verns, the Vince Seniors, the Eddie Grahams, and the Crockett's. In territories like that, there was always one guy in charge, and they saw a lot of success. Bill Watts, Von Erichs, same thing. One guy in charge, you usually have success under that formula. When things start breaking down is when promoters die, territories get gobbled up by bigger territories, or you are a company that's under the umbrella of another company that sells you and implements different people in charge, the revolving door of bookers and presidents in WCW and TNA, Ring of Honor, a lot of that stuff, just nobody was ever a firm person in charge. TNA went through that with all of the different, Russo in and out, Pritchard was there, Cornette was there, Dixie, was there, was gone, Jarrett, all that stuff that went on. Same thing with WCW, with Bischoff being fired, Russo and Ferrara coming in, them being fired, Bischoff being brought back, so the AOL Time Warner merger, Ted Turner, moving away from it. All that stuff leads to these companies' demise. The only formula that works is when you have one guy running the show, supplying all the money. And so in this case, AEW has that winning formula in Tony Khan. The problem is a lot of fans don't like Tony Khan. Some fans don't think he's right for the job. Tony Khan has his issues for sure, but I'm not crazy. And I think that some fans are just fucking crazy out there. So the formula that they have is one guy with an ass ton of money that's never going to run out of money, that is going to be able to financially compete with any other wrestling company out there. AEW isn't going to go anywhere. All these fans that are dreaming and praying of the day that AEW dies, the only way that's going to happen is if Tony Khan voluntarily closes it up. He's got enough money to supply, or he has enough money to supply his company with top talent. He's not going to ever have to worry about being outbid by someone else. That's going to keep them in business. He's got a TV deal. They're on cable. They're always going to be there. So Tony Khan, you would think the longer you do something, the better you get at it. Aren't you if you skateboard for 25 straight years, eventually you're going to become a professional skateboarder. So Tony Khan has never really been a wrestling booker before. He's now 6 years deep, 5 years deep in doing it. He should only get better. He should only learn from his mistakes. You would think that just the more you do something, the better you get at it. So Tony Khan has enough fuck you money to where they can survive some of the years when he's cutting his teeth, learning what the fuck he's doing, making his mistakes, learning from them, saying, okay, don't do that again. Make sure we don't do that. Start doing this more, start doing this less, that type of thing. He's got the money to stay in business. So hopefully when he really figures it out, WWE might be hitting their decline at that time because they're getting way ahead of themselves. They're booking 4-night they're this close to booking 4-night extravaganzas. It's going to happen, and they're going to have all these big stadium 2-night shows planned for a product that's going to have shit creative when stuff starts falling off. Hopefully AEW will swing the pendulum again and they can be brought up, to more where they were before. That's what makes wrestling fun. That's what makes competition so fun. So with Tony Khan, I can understand him not turning over the reins to anybody. And I think that's really deep down what frustrates a lot of fans is they know they can't get rid of him. The people that hate Tony Khan and spend their lives obsessing about the life of another man. There's so many of them out there. I've had to cut ties and unfollow people that used to be prominent in our chat just because they're crazy. Get the fuck away from me. You're crazy. You're crazy and obsessed and need to get out and get a life, smell some fresh air and touch a boob or something because you're all nuts. This insane over-the-top hatred for Tony Khan is crazy. The winning formula is to have one guy in charge. Granted, in AEW's case, maybe we could have a little bit stronger of a personality in that role, but you get what you get. So that's what we have in AEW. We can only hope, those of us who aren't tribal and stupid, we have to hope that AEW improves on the issues that they've seen in the past and learns from the mistakes that they've made. And currently, in the stretch of the past, maybe 3 weeks, things have been pretty decent on AEW's side, especially with the booking and things like that. So we'll see, how they go. But I think that Tony Khan, having a team around him that's competent, that he listens to, and that can speak up and then aren't yes men, is probably the best we can hope for in terms of Tony Khan having some creative help, where people can maybe say, nah, you might not want to do this, TK, here's why. That type of thing, rather than just turning it over to somebody else. And that's never going to be able to happen. I don't think Tony Khan will be able to do it. Because Tony Khan's not going to be... Remember when Vince tried it? They hired Bischoff and Heyman? How long that last? The minute, if they start writing things and then if the guy in charge doesn't like it, he's going to make you change it. Tony Khan would probably do the same thing. Yeah, I'm going to let this guy write my whole show. Well, then what if Tony Khan's reading through it and he really hates something? He's going to say change it. So it's only going to be one guy. That's the winning formula. That's what keeps you in business. Money and having one guy in charge. WWE had that for some of the time. One man in charge, they definitely had, but they struggled financially in the early and mid-90s there competing with WCW. They were close to going out of business, to not making it, to not being able to pay their talent. That's how close it was. They bounced back, turned out to have all the money in the world, and then they were on, no stopping them. Tony Khan, he doesn't have those financial constraints and those worries that WWE had back in the day. So, plus he's got a TV deal that's making them a profitable company faster than WCW ever did. So it's interesting with Tony Khan, but I guess I'm glad, at least in this case, that he didn't turn it over to Vince. Or I'm sorry, didn't turn it over to Shane. If Paul Heyman wanted to take over as head of creative, I'd give him that job if I was Tony Khan. Definitely not Shane McMahon. Speaking of McMahon's, let's transition to Vince and talk about this hilarious story regarding Ronda Rousey in the Royal Rumble back in 2022. And this is kind of stemming from some other frustrations right now in the women's locker room in WWE. And this write-up by Fightful Select was crazy. Here's what happened a couple of years ago, and I quote, Fightful was recently learned at one point early in the planning stages of the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble, that Vince McMahon had pitched to have Ronda Rousey eliminate the entire field in what would have been her first match in over 2.5 years. We're told that early on, Vince was very steadfast in wanting to do something like this because they had Rousey on a full-time advanced schedule for all of 2022. Eventually, Rousey was brought back, entered it at number 28, spent 10 minutes in the match, and won. Sasha and Mercedes had been pitched by many others as the winner for that one. There was also frustration with Vince McMahon, as the vast majority of the cameos had no real plan, and McMahon had instructed them to get in and get out. Summer Rae, Sarah Logan, Cameron, Kelly, Melina, Molly Holly, and Ivory all spent a minute or less in the match. At least 4 cameos WWE had planned for that year rejected the offers, including Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, and Nia Jax. And at least one cited TJ Wilson's lack of involvement as a reason, as TJ took some time away from WWE because he literally couldn't coexist with the insanity that was Vince McMahon. So this was one of his last horrible ideas. He would kind of be booted out several months after that, but then brought back to screw up the night after WrestleMania 39 on Raw, screwed that whole thing up, and then luckily, once the Janelle Grant stuff hit, he was gone for good. But the women's frustrations are another thing that was talked about this week. And here's what Fightful Select had to say about that. And I quote, several women on the WWE roster spoke with Fightful and noted the lack of focus on developing contenders, the tag team division, and screen time for women outside of the top of the division. This was said to be specifically in comparison to NXT, where main roster women's talent have noticed how much screen time and focus those talents get and how emotional investment follows. There was also a point of redundant storylines with the same talent not only being featured at the top of the card, but even in the mid-card title scene. Those that we spoke to were happy for those who got that screen time and said that it shouldn't be they're getting too much time conversation. It should be give other people more time in addition to them conversations. Those that Fightful spoke with pointed to Sonya Deville effectively being cut while negotiating a new deal as something they didn't want, is something that didn't instill confidence when they aren't being used by the company. We're told that Sonya had been told as recently as 4 days prior that the company was looking to keep her. Several who have inquired about creative plans were told that their time would be coming and were asked to be patient. So sounds like there are some frustrations in the women's division, and I've noticed that just in how I've been covering the results and stuff, that I haven't been talking a lot about the women. Not a lot of what they're doing has interested me. I loved the Tiffany Stratton cash-in. I thought that was really well done. And I'm loving her, run so far. And of course, Ripley, I'm a massive fan of. I liked the Liv stuff last year, but, it kind of feels, a little bit stagnant there. And then there's been a lot of talk about, women wanting, equality, in terms of screen time with, the men. And I'm not sure if it'll ever really be equal, but I definitely have seen cases in the past where I felt like the women have needed way more representation on the show than what they got. But, they've still got a lot of talent there. I just think they need to pull it together a little bit better. And it is kind of leaving out in the dark and in the dust a few pieces of talent that I think should be being on television more. And I think Natalya is another good example of that. I cannot believe they did not make her the first Intercontinental Champion. That's crazy to me. Lyra I like just fine, but Natalya would have been the literal perfect person to make the first ever Intercontinental Champion. And it didn't even seem like they considered it at all based on how she was treated in that tournament. I'm like, why wouldn't you put the IC title on a member of the Hart family? Are you nuts? So things like that, it's just like, this don't make any sense. But hopefully we will see some improvements there with the women. Speaking of the women, Carmella is gone. Contract has expired. She's been moved to the alumni section. So Carmella, at least for right now, is not in WWE. She recently had a child a year or so ago, and she was dealing with drop foot, which is a nasty condition. So I don't know how that's affecting her. I don't know if she's physically able to compete, like if they would call her back to TV, if she could be there and work, or if she's still recovering from things. And plus the issues with Corey Graves lately might factor into this too, as he definitely voiced his unhappiness a couple of weeks ago when he was moved to NXT. So Carmella, at least for right now, is gone. I hope they bring her back. It will be interesting, though, if she goes to AEW. That might make me think that Corey will head over there, too, in a couple of years. Or maybe she just has no plans to return to wrestling right now. Maybe she's going to be a mom. Maybe she is physically not ready to come back. We don't know, at least right now. But all the best to Carmella, and hopefully we will see her back on TV again one day. What did you guys think of Ricky Saints? So we were speculating about Ricky Starks. Of course, he showed up in NXT a couple of weeks ago. And then he was on NXT this past week where he was going to sign his NXT contract. And that was going to be where they were going to announce and reveal what his name would be. So I just thought it was going to be Ricky Starks. I mean, Ethan Page is over there as Ethan Page. And, Jade Cargill came in as Jade Cargill. And so I thought Ricky Starks would just be Ricky Starks, but it turns out he's going to be Ricky Saints, paying tribute, I guess, to his hometown of New Orleans, where WrestleMania 42 was going to be, incidentally. I'm not sure if I brought that up earlier. So he's going to be known as Ricky Saints. On the surface, I don't hate that. That's fine. And the name change doesn't upset me in any way. It's just, I'm so curious, what the formula is to this madness. What makes them decide we're going to change one guy's name but not another? Kevin Owens came in, or Kevin Steen came in, and they made him Kevin Owens. Well, why couldn't he just be Kevin Steen? In some of these cases, it's the real legal name. Some it's not. AJ Styles, not his real name, but he's been able to be AJ Styles everywhere. CM Punk, same thing. Ethan Page came in as Ethan Page. Jade Cargill came in as Jade Cargill. But then we have others, who come through the farm system, like a Seth Rollins, who has to be given a WWE name. Same with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns and Rollins are two big examples of that. But when you have an established personality or persona somewhere, it's weird how sometimes it remains intact and sometimes it doesn't. And so I just don't know I guess it's a case-by-case basis, and sometimes they choose to change your name, and, sometimes it's the wrestler that wants to change it. All that's fine. I don't really give a shit whose idea it is. I'm just curious if it is case-by-case or if there is some sort of a formula to this. Like if WWE said, we want you to change it to Ricky Saints, and if they did say that, why? That's all I want to know here. If it turns out, and next time Ricky's on a podcast or a press conference, if anybody gets a chance to ask him this, ask him. I want to know. Why was your name changed? I'm not saying if I'm mad about it or not. I don't really care about that. I just want to know why. And if it was WWE that in fact said, we want you to change your name, okay, but why? That's my question. Why? Why me and not him? Or why us and not them? Why do you want to change mine, but you didn't want to change somebody else's? I just want to know. I'll do it, but can you at least tell me why? That's all I want to know. So anyway, he's Ricky Saints now, and the name itself is fine. Ricky Saints is fine. That's going to be an easy transition to make, just like Alistair to Malachi Black, and things like that. Give me other examples where the one name has been changed. And we do see that a lot too. When talent jumps ship or something, sometimes just half of the name is changed, the other half is kept intact. And I know we've seen some recent examples of that in both companies, where Andrade was Andrade, and then Andrade El Idolo, then back to Andrade, Malachi, Alistair, Rusev, Miro, shit like that. So now it's Ricky Saints, and he's in NXT, signs his contract, and then was interrupted by Ethan Page and also Wesley, I think. So he had a little segment, and he's got a match this Wednesday. We also saw TNA X Division champion Moose come out and confront Oba Femi. So that's interesting. Enjoy your loss, Moose, because you're going to lose to Oba Femi when that match happens. I love the way it was written, too. I was looking at WWE's website or something, and it said TNA star confronts NXT superstar. Like, my God, WWE, so shitty. And I did see also in TNA, Cora Jade's been hanging out over there, and she had a little face-off with Tessa Blanchard. Are we going to be bringing her into NXT? Please, no. We probably are, though. Let's let out a big ho to Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who apparently signed a WWE Legends deal this week. I thought he already was under a Legends deal. I know he's got figurines out the ass. He was on Legends House 10 years ago. I thought he was already under one, so that's not really news. I figured he already was there. And Demolition signed a Legends deal last week, and we're hoping that is going to lead to a Hall of Fame induction for the duo. I've since started following Smash on Twitter, or Barry Darso, and him and Axe. They crack me up, man. They're on the road all the time. They're at a convention every weekend, and it really seems like they just have a great time together. Like just a couple of videos that Smash have posted of, Axe putting on his face paint. They're both putting on their paint. They're ribbing each other and just goofing around. They're just lifelong friends. And, I remember like years ago, I thought Axe was had some really bad health problems. I thought he was on death's door. He looks good. They both look good. They sound good. They're constantly on the road from California to Michigan to all over the place doing these kind of small time conventions where they're just signing autographs and taking pictures and putting the face paint on. And I would really like to meet them. If they come through San Diego, I will go meet them because I've never met either of them before. And they were my third favorite tag team of all time. So I hope to get a chance to meet Demolition one of these days. But I kind of thought it was kind of wholesome how they're just on the road together and seem to get along. And I don't know, I guess they probably live in the same town, Minnesota. I'm not totally sure if they just meet, at the location or if they actually travel to the airport together, fly together, go together. I don't know. But it seems like they're having a good time still doing their thing on the convention circuit. We never really did talk about Grand Slam, AEW Grand Slam last week. Or I never got a chance to talk to you guys about it. I thought the show was great. I loved the venue setup. I thought it looked really, really good. The crowd was jacked. We, of course, saw Tony Storm winning the AEW women's title for a 4th time, beating Mariah May. I was surprised how many people didn't think she would win. I saw a lot of social media predictions of her losing where I predicted her to win the whole time. I'm like, she's going to win the belt back. She has to. And she did. And I did like how she won it. It also got criticism from the fans. I think just fans are young. That's all I'll say. What? She won with a roll-up? But that was the story. That was a Hail Mary. This was Diesel and Bret Hart from Survivor Series in 1995. Wake the fuck up. Why must everything be overanalyzed by people who don't understand it? That's the story of the IWC. Overanalyzing something you don't understand to begin with. And that's all I saw with that Toni Storm and Mariah May match. Jesus, just open your damn eyes. I thought it was a great match. I loved the finish. Toni Storm won. Great moment for her. And like I hoped, that match was the main event. I was very concerned about that. Did turn out to go on last. The Death Riders wound up beating Copley. Death Riders wound up beating Cope and Jay White in that tag match. The beginning of that was amazing with the fans singing Cope's theme song. He seemed really taken aback by that, really emotional. That was awesome. More international shows, I think, are a must for AEW because, as we've seen in AEW and WWE, international shows ensure jacked crowds and a motivated talent roster. And it's a must for AEW because it was just a great atmosphere, great feeling in the building. You could tell that night. And Ospreay and Kenny opened, beating Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher in an amazing tag match. Go back and watch that a second time for sure. And they had a pretty good rating that night because it was a lead-in right after the All-Star game, and they opened with that tag. And they pulled a pretty good number for that too. So props to AEW for pulling off a pretty successful Grand Slam based on a build and a promotion that felt like it was largely fumbling. And it turned out to be a pretty good show. Also, it should be noted that AEW used a smaller ring. They used an 18 by 18 ring, which fans were noting and noticing that looked smaller. I actually liked the bright colored floor mats. Looks like they didn't have the proper ring steps either, and they had a smaller ring. So, of course, the bad faith idiot pool over there in the deep end, they are using this as a gotcha ammunition. Oh, Tony Khan, they're idiots. They didn't factor in freight costs and shit. Like, now we're talking about freight costs. Are you taking your obsession with hating another company to that degree that you're now worrying about international freight costs? That's what we're doing. So the bad faith audience, the mouth-breathing slimeball dumb fucks, are automatically assuming that this is some big major fumble by the Mud Show. Tony Khan didn't call the freight company. Tony Khan wouldn't even be handling this. He's got people to handle this. So no, AEW didn't fuck up. They didn't have to scramble and go rent a ring from an indie promotion at the last minute. This was the plan all along. They use a 20 by 20 in the States, and they never had any plans on shipping a 20 by 20 over there. They used an 18 by 18 ring, which is the same size as TNA and ECW and WCW and Ring of Honor. It's a normal, standard size wrestling ring. WWE always used 20 by 20. That's why when you watch Nitro, their ring looked smaller. But unfortunately, many of the fans complaining about this weren't alive when Nitro was on. I was. And so were a lot of you. So we remember. So the ring discourse was hilarious and just an absolutely perfect illustration of how ball-fuck insane that portion of the wrestling audience is. Get over it, man. You guys have got problems. You need therapy. Big time. So the small ring discussion was ridiculous. It wasn't a 16 by 16 ring. It was 18 by 18. Not a big deal. Just a little smaller. Wrestlers worked fine in it. Will Ospreay, arguably the best wrestler in the world between the ropes, said that he loved the ring. But yet Cheeto crumbed Joey 69 bunch of numbers on Twitter thinks the ring was too small and it's a big problem. Cheetos all over him. Throwing shade. That's the IWC for you. Anyway, Grand Slam was great. I thought it was a good little compact show. AEW shows tend to be very long, so the fact that they gave us kind of a quickie that was good with all matches delivering, that's awesome. Buddy and Okada. Buddy rolled his ankle a little bit. Hopefully he's all right, but that match was good. And Mercedes and Harley. Loved it. Harley coming up with the Mercedes puppet, the apron there, like Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 19. Oh, tremendous. Good stuff. Wrestling is better than the things you like. Let's finish up a little Dynamite talk. Excellent promo this week. Here's something I'll say, and I'll stand by. Hangman and MJF, better than The Rock and Cody last night, 100%. Great promo there. This is going to be a fun story. They're now booked for Revolution. MJF and Hangman, their promo highlighting not only the history of the company, but the history of both of the guys. And the way Hangman kind of spoke up finally and stood up for Christopher Daniels was kind of cool. And the exchange was great. It went about 20 minutes. And I really enjoyed the promo on Dynamite between Hangman and MJF. It might be my favorite ongoing feud right now in the company. So looking forward to that match at Revolution. Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata have formed a trio called the Ops, I guess, or the Opposition. They beat the Patriarchy in a 6-way. Or a 6-man, I should say. Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill. Geez, meat on meat here. They had a street fight, beat the shit out of each other. Powerhouse, rightfully so, got the win, putting Big Bill through a table, and Bill kind of got all caught up in the barbed wire there, couldn't get out, didn't answer the 10 count, and lost the match. Big win for Hobbs there, but, Big Bill, he's just a monster. I mean, at some point, you got to pull the trigger and start pushing him. I think his dues are paid at this point if you're Tony Khan. But in this match, I was definitely rooting for Powerhouse Hobbs and his Timberlands that he was wearing. But Big Bill in general, though, he might have started doing something with him. He's just too fucking big. If you don't, his contract's going to run up and WWE's going to grab him. We had a Tony Storm victory promo. She was out there with the belt, basically serving notice to everybody that she's not a hard woman to find. So come try her and she'll slap your tits off. The Death Riders interrupted the broadcast when Moxley's wife, Renee, is interviewing the lovely Willow. And Mox runs in, or I guess Marina comes in, attacks Willow. Mox grabs the cameraman. They go out to the ring. And he says he's the champ and no one can stop him. And Jay White comes out to the stage, but he's kind of cornered by the Death Riders. And then Cope runs in from behind, enters the ring and attacks Moxley, and they run off the Death Riders, and Cope gets on the mic and vows to beat Moxley at Revolution for the title. And I mentioned this before, I'm probably one of the few fans that's actually fine with this. I am rooting for Cope to win the title from Jon Moxley because the Death Riders angle sucks, man. I want it to end. And if Darby Allin still has to climb Mount Everest, and that's happening in April, he's not going to be able to come back and win the world title until any earlier than Double or Nothing in May. And I don't know if I want to go through 4 more months of this shit with Moxley. So if you have Cope beat him, and then maybe Moxley can win it back or something, before you get to that match, making Moxley a 6-time champion or whatever it is. So briefly putting the title on Cope, I think would be all right, even if you factored in Christian to this, and he's got that contract. Now, I think that they're saving him cashing in that contract for whenever Killswitch can come back, but if they don't do that, you could tie him into this too. And this is a theme with me over the years. It's something that I brought up for decades before AEW even existed. I've always been kind of a stickler and finicky about title histories and lineages and things like that. And if I'm Tony Khan, I'm sitting here with an opportunity to put 2 legendary names in my title lineage, just all in the matter of a couple of months. You could figure something out to have Cope win, Christian beat him for it, and then Moxley somehow gets the title back before dropping it to Darby or whatever. You might have to hot potato your belt a little bit, but who cares? How many times did The Rock and Mankind trade that damn belt in January and February of 1999? What, they won it twice each? Is that right? Mankind won it twice. The Rock won it twice. All in that time span. Yeah, because Rock won it, Mankind won it in Raw, and then he won it in a halftime heat. Rock won it at the Rumble, and then he won it right after St. Valentine's Massacre on Raw, right? With the help from Paul White. So think about that hot potatoing and what happened the rest of the year. Then it bounced from Austin to Taker, back to Austin, back to Mick, back down to Triple H, to Big Show. Think about 1999. So I'm not a big fan of hot potatoing your title or anything, but if you have to do it if 1 year you just have a larger than normal amount of title changes, what's wrong with that? I mean, as long as it doesn't continue and become the norm and you got a new champion every 2 weeks, if you just have 1 year where you're like, holy shit, the AEW title changed hands 6 times this year, that's going to be a record. And then you kind of go back to normal. Maybe the following year after that, you got a year-long run again, like Max. So I have no problem with that. So if I'm Tony Khan, I'm building my company and my company's legacy, I would want Edge and Christian's name on that. That would look good to me. I would take advantage of that. Even if it means it's a cup of coffee with the title. At least it's there. So I would at least consider that with Edge and Christian. Or with Cope and Christian. Also, we had Mercedes Moné. She had a promo. She's going to be facing Momo Watanabe. Right now, Momo won the Women's International Cup at Wrestle Dynasty, and that gave her the opportunity to challenge any champion across several promotions. She's chosen Mercedes at Revolution, so we'll be seeing that match there. Megan Bayne defeated Chris Statlander. It's good to see Megan in. She's another one like Statlander where she's large and in charge and very strong, and that was a cool match. I liked the Ricochet promo too. Hate to say it. Ricochet out there wearing the embassy robe that he stole after he beat Swerve a couple weeks ago. And he's got that stupid laugh. Ha ha! I'm so glad it's annoying. That's the point. And he's not all bad. He's a little fucking prick out there on the mic. And Prince Nana showed up and he talked about the history and the importance of that embassy robe and asks for it back. And Ricochet basically says no and walks off. And he did great heel work in this promo. I have to commend Ricochet for making the jump to WWE. He could have easily stayed there for that money, status quo, doing the same shit. No evolution in his character, no change in his spot on the card, no heel turn, nothing like that. Just being Ricochet on fucking speed and the occasional Raw or SmackDown match that goes on second. But instead, he took a chance on himself. Jumped to AEW and almost immediately started doing things that he wasn't doing before. Because a lot of fans, why would he leave WWE? You know what? We wouldn't expect you to understand it because you're so goddamn fucking simple. The tribals who got on Ricochet's case, they have no concept whatsoever of personal or professional goals or creative goals or what you want to do for yourself, how you want your career to go. And so when somebody sees an opportunity to leave, go do something different. Hey, I might be financially satisfied, but I'm not creatively satisfied. So I could jump to AEW and I can do more things there. I can color a little bit more outside the lines and have a little bit more creative freedom in what I do. And so since he's been this little cocky, arrogant asshole, he's been doing great. The match with Swerve really elevated him. And I even think maybe he could get back into the Hurt Syndicate because they did that whole thing where they grabbed his face, and all of that. So he was kind of a nerdy dork, and that's transitioned into this nerdy dork heel who's now cocky and arrogant and is getting better. You can see that Ricochet, he's never been the best promo, never will be, but he's a lot better. And I'm listening to what he's saying a hell of a lot more now than I would in a backstage segment with Kathy Kelly on Raw. I'd probably just be looking at Kathy. So this is way better, and I commend Ricochet for changing it up, switching companies in order to change up the direction of his career. There's nothing wrong with that. Fans look at everything so simply. Why would you leave WWE? I can see totally why he would leave, because he wasn't doing anything there. You might be okay just with TV time, just doing the same thing, same spot on the card, no chance or opportunities for growth whatsoever. Where in AEW, for him, not everybody, it's not going to be, the grass isn't going to be greener on one side or the other for everyone. For some, it's going to be more attractive to go to AEW. For some others, it's going to be more attractive to go to WWE. It's not just one way, and everybody has different aspirations, different ambitions, what they want to do, how they want to be remembered, who they want to work with. Hey, there's 9 or 10 wrestlers over there who I've never worked with, and I desperately want to. So when my contract is up, I'm going over there. There's wrestlers on both sides that could be saying that to themselves. So with Ricochet, this seems like a jump at least for right now, that has paid off because he's much more interesting and he's working a higher level on the card here than he would have in WWE. So in this case, I think it was a good move. Orange Cassidy defeated Roderick Strong in the main event to earn a number one contenders match for the international title. That'll be taking place next week on Dynamite. And Takeshita is already booked for the title against Omega at Revolution. So I feel like this match is a formality. Technically, the winner of Cassidy and Takeshita will face Kenny at Revolution, but I think it's going to be I think it's going to be Takeshita, hopefully, and he'll retain and face Kenny because I think that's going to be an awesome match. We have Collision tonight going live in 40 minutes. It was taped on Wednesday. Here's what we got. Gabe Kidd is here. He came in to AEW to work a little run here from New Japan. That's awesome. He's going to be going up against the Butcher. We have Jericho versus Bandito, the Beast Mortos versus Hologram, Queen Aminata versus Julia Hart, and the Death Riders versus Daddy Magic, Angelo, and Daniel Garcia in a trios title match. Here's what we got for Revolution. Moxley and Cope for the title. Steel cage match, Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. My God, that's going to be crazy. International title match, Takeshita or Orange Cassidy taking on Omega, but I'm hoping it's going to be Takeshita and Kenny. TBS title match, Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe, and MJF versus Hangman Page. That is 5 matches so far. We're probably going to get 4 more, I would assume, added to the card. And we'll start putting that together probably tonight and Wednesday. And that is pretty much it for my notes. Leaves me with just a couple of minutes here to answer any other questions you guys might have in the comments. If anybody has not hit that thumbs up button yet for me, if you do that, I would appreciate it. Yeah, there you go, Shell Shock. You're a hot potato fan like me. All right, let me see how far back I need to go to get these chatters done. Okay, did that one. All right, 10 more from Ryan Adams. Thank you, my friend. Is Carmella a Hall of Famer? Former SmackDown champion, women's tag champion, first ever women's Money in the Bank winner, and first ever women's cash-in, WrestleMania Battle Royal winner. If Michelle McCool is in, then Carmella will be in. So the answer to that is probably yes, but if I'm in charge of the Hall of Fame, Carmella is going to be one of the last names I'm getting to be honest. But luckily, I'm not in charge of the Hall of Fame because they would not put me in charge of that. Greg, you can't put in Rick Martel 5 times. Well, yes, I can. He can go in as Rick Martel. He can go in as Strikeforce. He can go in as the model. He can go in as WCW Martel. He can go. I have all sorts of inductions for him. All right. Got that one. Got that one. Got that one. All right, Mike Witt, 5 more from you. I still think we're going to get a loser leave Judgment Day at Mania between Finn and Dom. Possibly Alistair returns to be the leader Monday after. That's right. They are hinting, right, at a new member of Judgment Day. So Alistair Black seems like is probably going to be the plan there. And I really do hope that Dominic and Finn get a Mania match because I feel like Finn's going to be left out in the cold. But Dom, they would probably want to work him in too. I think Dom didn't have one last year, right? Or maybe he was in a tag. So Finn and Dom winning, would be interesting. Maybe with Alistair Black returning in that match. But then Alistair and Dominic, I don't know, man. Feels like he's just going to move from House of Black to Judgment Day. They might want to have him do something else, but that would be fun. And I think Black returning on the Monday after Mania would be perfectly fitting. Yeah, he did have awesome theme music too. I'm ready to hear that again. 5 more from Mike. Imagine if Vince Jr. went to the AWA and wanted to be in charge in the mid to late 70s. Vern would have been irate at the idea. Mike, he did. Vince did, from what I understand, because when Vince wanted to start his company, I think he looked into purchasing the AWA first. Yeah, he went to I think inquire about purchasing the AWA outright and running it. But then after Vern, he had so many partners and shit, Vince wound up buying his dad's company. So I think Vince actually did approach Vern. I think he approached him later for a buyout as well. But I think before this, he actually did approach Vern about buying the company. But Vern, at the time, couldn't sell it for whatever reason, if my memory is correct on that. Mike, 5 more. The women's division will pick up when it is revealed that Bianca is the one who took out Jade. It's going to be like Triple H and Shawn in 2002. I hope so. I want it to be Bianca. I want some blurry ass video footage to be focused and reveal Bianca and the crowd crap their pants. I want that. I just don't know if it's going to happen. 10 more from Mike. You're on a roll. I am one of the few fans that like both companies. However, still baffles me that WWE treated Toni Storm. Now look at her. She's a star. WWE looks pretty stupid. Well, both companies are guilty of that. WWE is inexplicably fumbled somebody that should be a sure thing, and AEW has done the same thing. So sometimes that's why companies, bookers aren't geniuses and shit. They do a lot of dumb things too. And Toni Storm, as soon as she came in AEW, I said she's going to be the best one they got. And that's exactly what she's turned out to be. I think she was underutilized. And I think, when you're there in the same locker room as a Charlotte and other people, maybe you got a ceiling if you're a women's wrestler. But Toni Storm is too talented. She's just too good. She's excellent. Crazy. Yes, Rodrigo, Gorilla Monzon is in the Hall of Fame. He is. I forgot to mention Becky. So Becky, you got to wonder if she's going to be back for anything. If she's not going to, it feels like the only thing they would do with Becky at this point would be challenge for the undercard title. So maybe Lyra or Chelsea do have, probably Lyra. It might be Lyra and Becky for the IC. Maybe that's what they do at WrestleMania. Kind of forgot about Becky Lynch. But otherwise, I think it's either multi-women ordeals or those belts aren't going to be defended at all. Rodrigo, I'm pretty sure Gorilla was one of the first put in, like that first year. There you go, Ryan. Is Becky missing Mania? Also think Black is SmackDown bound because why move Zelina over there? Yeah, exactly. So Black would make more sense over on SmackDown. And yeah, Becky is either going to miss Mania and come back on the post-Mania Raw, or she comes back early and challenges for the IC. But I think Becky should just come back. Becky should come back on SmackDown after WrestleMania and get in Charlotte's face, because Charlotte will be there with the championship because she's going to win. So maybe bring Becky back over there and rekindle that rivalry. Who knows? But anyway, I got to get out of here. I got to head to work. So thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me this evening. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night. We will be watching WCW Super Brawl 1996. Stay tuned to my social media just in case on an off chance I have to cancel that. If I'm not feeling well, I'll let you know. But we should be up here tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday, and I'll be catching you tomorrow night. Peace.